Hi Intermediate, I had some homework questions, 17, 19, 23, and 25 from 10.7. So I worked them out and I was going to scan them and put them up for you, but maybe let me just quickly talk you through them in case you want a little more detail. So for this one, this only has a common factor, so you pull out the B. And remember, when you're finding the critical number, you're actually pretending that this equals to 0 just for a moment. You pretend just for a moment it equals to 0. So like if this equaled to 0, you would get that B is 0 and 9. Okay, you would just pretend for a moment that it's actually equal. It's not equal. All right, then when you put 0 and 9 on the number line, you have to say whether the critical numbers are included or excluded. Since this doesn't have the bar in the original question, it's excluded. That's why these are open circles. And then I asked you guys to find a test value, and it could be anything to the left of 0, like -1, -2, -3, right? Anything to the left of 0. Anything in between 0 and 9, just never pick the critical numbers as a test value, right? These are what we would call test values. And then I picked 10. And so I like to plug them into the factored form. Some people prefer this form. It really doesn't matter. This is just the one that my brain particularly likes. But that doesn't have to be your brain. Your brain could like that better. And so I plugged all of these test values into here. And they either give you a true or false statement. If it's true, if that one value works, that means that all the values work in that segment. And if that one value is false, that means that all the values are false in that segment. Okay, so I got this part and this part to work. So just make sure once you figure out if it's true or false that you actually write what the answer is. Okay, some people just like leave that on the final exam. Like make sure you write it out. I spent a little bit of time on that. I probably won't spend so much time on the other ones. Okay, so first of all, you have to get one side to be 0. So I moved this over to the left. Okay, so that one side is equal to 0. Now this one, like the previous one, has a common factor in it. So I factored it out. And then again, you pretend for a moment that this equals to 0. That's how you find the critical numbers. I know that's confusing, but that's really how you do it. You pretend for a moment that that equals to 0. And if that equals to 0, you would solve these for the critical numbers. You put the critical numbers on the number line. And again, you have to decide if they're included or excluded. So since this had the bar, that meant that I would color in the critical numbers. And then again, you just find a test value in each segment. This is -1.25, so -2 fits to the left, but you could use -3 or whatever over here. And again, since this is -1.25, I use -1 here. And again, I just plug it in, say whether it's true or false. If it's false, it's not that segment. If it's true, it is that segment. And then at the end, just make sure you write the answer to what you get. Okay, 23, I know in class I would make you reverse this, but I only made you reverse it because it was part of a bigger problem in section, in chapter 7. If it's by itself, you could just go ahead and factor as it is. You don't have to start like doing a lot of extra steps, okay? So I factored it, I pretended it equaled to 0, I got the critical number, I put the critical numbers up. It has the bar, so they're solid. I put in the test values to check the segments. And I got that the n values worked. So when I wrote my answer, I got that the n values worked. This left side and the right side. And 25 is very similar to that. Again, I just moved it to the left. You can have it in any order when it's just factoring. It's when the problem is a lot bigger that you have to sort of swap the order around. These you don't have to. Now this one was a little tricky because it also had a common factor in it. So I pulled out the common factor 9, and then I factored the difference of perfect squares. I then let this equal to 0, which gave me the critical numbers. You're only solving for what S is, so 9 is 9. You're not like setting 9 equal to 0. That's not possible. Like it's not having an identity crisis. It already is a fixed value. Okay, so you just leave 9 hanging out there. It's not going to contribute to anything in terms of the critical numbers. right, so we got -4 and 4 is the critical numbers because those would be what the values of S would be if this equal to 0. Those are the unknowns. And it's got the bar, so we make them solid. And then as usual, you just plug in and you test. Oh, and see, I didn't write my answer after I said it. But I plugged in and I test true or false. So now let me write the answer. Maybe let me write it up here. So the solution to this one is going to be -infinity to -4. And also 4 to infinity, okay? It's really easy to forget to write the answer. It's very common when you do like a lot of work to forget at the very end to write the answer. So just try to remember at the end to put that. Okay, gang, I hope that helped. Those were the questions I got on 10.7. Okay, bye-bye.